Hello and welcome to BTV, Boise State in the Community. I'm your host, Brad Rabout. And here at Boise State in the Community, we get the distinct privilege of meeting with influential members in our community. Today's guest is no different. He's a media teacher, he's a social justice advocate, and he has dozens of Instagram followers. Please welcome me in introducing Professor Dan Garrity.
You're stealing all my best material.
Yeah, well, I got it from you.
Dozens.
I got it from you, so that makes sense. So social justice, it's something that I've learned that you hold in very high regard. What does social justice mean to you?
I've extended it, I think, to indicate whatever you're good at, you have the responsibility of sharing that in order to help people who aren't good at what you're good at or don't have what you have. And it crosses every field imaginable. You are living proof of the fact that we can endeavor to achieve social justice even through the media arts major, even through a television show, by shining a light on important issues and by helping people pay attention to something absent this kind of a creative endeavor they never would have paid attention to before.
Yeah, and that's so great that you've been giving us the opportunity to make them pay attention to us by teaching us the skills that you know and the skills that we can manifest later in life. So you were in the Air Force, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So first and foremost, thank you for your service.
Thank you. We won the Cold War.
I know. Oh, we'll get to that, trust me. So some would say that serving in the military and the armed forces would be the highest form of social justice. What are your thoughts on that?
I respectfully wouldn't agree with that. I think that you can be called to social justice causes no matter where you are, no matter what you have been given. I'm honored to have been given the opportunity to serve my country that way, but I don't think I'm any more patriotic than you or anybody else in the room. It's what you do with the resources that you have at any given moment in your life.
So maybe more of a community service, a service to the community and maybe the world at large?
Sure, and the important thing I think to remember, Brad, is the world is a really, really big place. I can't change the world, but I can do what I do with the gifts I've been given and perhaps help one television show host.
Yes.
And by the way, remember the name. I think you're going to be seeing him in the future. And you'll remember the things that you learned here. And I know that wherever you are and whatever resources that you've been given, you're going to use them for good and not for evil.
Yeah, thank you so much. That does really mean a lot to me. So you kind of alluded to it, that you won us the Cold War, and that's a reoccurring theme here in this classroom.
So I have 3 jokes, so that's
Okay, so please tell us how you won us the Cold War.
I was in the Air Force in the 80s and early 90s during the Cold War, so it's kind of a joke, but there's always a little bit of truth in the joke. I got to be on a combat crew flying around the country and learned just absolutely so much about service, about leadership, about how to be a dynamic follower, how to invest in something way bigger than yourself, how to be part of a crew, how to goof off appropriately and not get in trouble for it, but still have fun. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. I hesitate saying that was the best time of my life because I hope that anybody watching knows the best time of your life is that which you're experiencing right now. So it was great. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad that other people are doing it now.
Yeah. So what I got out of that is that you had a lot of lessons in the Air Force.
Yeah.
What would you say is the number one lesson you learned there?
I think how to be a professional, and again, that permeates all kinds of different disciplines and different kinds of career fields. In television, I talk about, one of the highest honors I can bestow upon somebody is, man, you're a crew dog. And what I mean by that is what I remember from being a member of an air crew in the Air Force. Whether we're best friends or whether we hate each other, when we're on mission, when we're on the aircraft actually performing the job that we were trained for, the only thing that matters is doing whatever you can do to make it a successful mission. And the same thing is true if you look around our room right now. Television can't be done, live television can't be done just because you're a talented host. You need a fantastic director and a fantastic technical director and great camera operators and great, on and on and on. If every single member of the crew is equally committed to the same mission, you can move mountains.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I always hear about armed forces is that you have to trust the man or woman next to you more than you trust yourself. And you alluded to it, just like in here, I have to trust Syra in there to get the 1 shot, to get the 2 shot, to get the 3 shot, whenever she needs it. Because you've said many times that you could be in here giving us the cure to cancer, and if she's in there messing around, killing the mics, there's no point.
Total team effort, absolutely.
So the Air Force is a community like any other. And so what was that community like compared to the one in here? Similar in some ways, very, very different in others.
We goofed around, but appropriately
Absolutely.
so. I remember as you're flying out to where you're actually going to be conducting your mission, all kinds of hijinks were going on. But the minute the light went on and you were on station and asked to perform, you would be incredibly impressed and pleased with the professionalism of the crew. Similarly, in this kind of a community, I say that you have the right to have a smile on your face when you come to work. And I notice that this class, this crew, does exactly that. Before the show gets going, I notice people, joking and having a good time while they're doing the work, getting ready for this thing. And I'm telling you what, I've been back in production control for every show until this one. And that is exactly the same dynamic that I observe in production control, that everybody in this class, everybody on this crew knows what they're supposed to do, and they act like professionals. I'm very, very proud of what the class has done thus far this semester. And in fact, just for the viewers to understand, the fact that I'm out here means I'm not in production control, and this is a very big step for this class this semester. You don't know it yet, but this show is worth double. So whatever grade you get here is going to be doubled, and I'm feeling so far that it's going to be a good one.
Good, me too. I'm excited. So you were talking about you got to fly all over the country.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly where. We flew around a lot. We burned a lot of gas.
Okay, so top secret stuff, I assume, nothing you can tell me?
Yeah.
That's cool. So when you were flying around, what's some of the sights you got to see? Was there anywhere that just amazed you?
We used to get to go to temporary duty to Mildenhall, England, which was a total gas. I had been there as a tourist, in my college days, but as a crew member, we would be able to fly a mission over there, and then for about 3 or 4 days, we'd be on the ground just, waiting for our return flight, having a great time. So most of my sightseeing was only done off mission. When you're on the mission, you didn't have time to look out the window.
So that can kind of be compared to media, where as soon as that red light comes on, it's go time, it's
Absolutely.
mission time. Whereas in between, obviously you want to be prepared for the mission, but also have fun, enjoy your life, sightsee and live.
Absolutely.
So going back to your time in the Air Force, how did you get into that?
Well, I was in college like yourself, only I wasn't as focused as you were. And it became very, very evident to me after having gone to college for 5 years with no degree. You would have thought I majored in fun. I knew I needed some discipline in my life. I had lost my father just the year before.
Sorry
and was
to hear that.
really like a plane without a rudder, so to speak. And really, thank God that I had the sense enough to say, I need to learn how to get my life and my act together, and I need to learn how to be much more disciplined and the Air Force was a perfect way to do that.
Well, are you glad you went that route?
Oh, absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Professor Dan Garrity about his time in media and the opportunities and places it took him. This has been Boise State in the Community on BTV. Don't go anywhere.
BSU has a variety of clubs for students to join. One in particular is creating quite a buzz on campus. I'm Emery Moore, and here's what to know about Boise State's B team.
Do a single egg per cell, mostly centered.
The mission of the bee team is mostly to provide insight for students in terms of beekeeping, the importance of honeybees, and also just an environmental perspective. So why honeybees are important, what we can do for them, and just in general, why it's important to keep a balance in our environment. Even in Boise and for Boise State being a city college, it's really important to be aware of your environment and what your actions are doing.
Oh, early stage larvae.
The V team has an apiary on top of the Student Union building. It's been there for quite a few years now, and it was originally started for environmental science majors. We, as bee team members, maintain it. We check in on the bees, make sure they're healthy. We check for pests and treat them when necessary. We provide food. We make sure that they are going to be sustained over the winter.
This is all fresh honey that they've gotten from the flowers around here.
And beekeeping is just a really fascinating and recently developing scientific community. There's not a lot of hard science yet. So to be on the forefront of that and to be advocating for scientific methods when it comes to beekeeping is great.
For more information, search B team at boisestate.edu. I'm Emery Moore, and that's what to know about Boise State.
Hello and welcome back to BTV Boise State in the Community. When we left off, we were talking with Professor Dan Garrity's opportunities and the places he's been. So, Professor Garrity, you have had the ability to work with some professional media outlets. What are some of those outlets that you've worked with?
There are 210 ranked markets in the great United
Really?
States of America, Brad. And I worked in almost the very last one. I started out in market 198, San Angelo, Texas. It was a CBS affiliate, and they hired me as a videographer. And then at that same station, I got to become a reporter and then an anchor. And then after working there for a number of years, I had the opportunity to come to Spokane, Washington. I actually said no to a small city in Oregon. I know you're from
really?
Scappoose.
I am.
This was in Medford, which is
Yep.
a great place to be. I chose Spokane because I knew that there was a leader there. The news director who ended up hiring me came from the reporter ranks. And when we sat down for the interview, I just said to myself, I have so much to learn from this man. I had been in television for a while, kind of thought, I knew how everything worked, and I was absolutely blown away by the depth of knowledge. Ron Cummings, if you're watching, Ron, love you, and thank you so much for all the lessons that you taught. Then from Spokane, I got a job in a top 10 market in Seattle. I was a reporter there, and then came back to manage a couple of newsrooms back in Spokane. Finally,
Yeah.
Everybody had to do it my way.
What kind of reporting did you do in Seattle?
They called it general assignment.
Okay.
So pretty much in Seattle, it was pretty much breaking news every day. Whatever the biggest, craziest thing, they would send me out there and I'd report live on it.
Yeah, so you've done production domestically, but you've also done it foreign. You actually had a show in Istanbul. What was the name of that show?
Yeah, after I began teaching after my television career at Gonzaga University, and what an incredible opportunity to accompany another study abroad group over there. They went through Turkey for about 3-4 weeks, and I and one of my students got to accompany them, and it was kind of an experiment, and we decided that we were going to try to do quick turn, short form digital narratives in a reality show kind of a style. So about every 2 or 3 days, we were turning a 10-minute episode, so that at the end of the trip, I think we had actually dropped 12 10-minute episodes.
And you're doing this with a group of undergraduate students or postgrad?
Undergraduate.
Undergraduate, that's impressive.
I had one young man, Andrew Opila, who to this day is still one of the best storytellers out there right now, working professionally. And I tell people all the time, that was the hardest I've ever worked in this industry, just the two of us doing that. And I'm very, very proud of his work. Even if nobody had ever watched, and blessedly, some people did, we got some very, very good comments, but even if nobody had ever watched, it was the transformation that took place with that young man that will stick with me forever.
That's very important. It's not about the views, it's about you knowing what he did, where he started, and where he ended.
It is. Yes, and at the same time, we did open some eyes about what Turkey is all about and how it operates and their culture and how they live their lives. Up until that point, most assuredly in the circles that I ran in, it wasn't a very well-known entity at all.
Yeah, and so when you started this show, it was actually comprised of multiple different classes, not just a media class.
Right,
is that correct?
right. Yeah, so there was a religious studies professor, there was a classic civilizations professor, and me, and then about 18 students who were taking classes throughout the trip. We'd just stop on the side of the road and hear a lecture from one of those brilliant men, and then Andrew, the student, and I would document this and turn around an episode as quick as we could.
That's amazing. And so this Andrew, we talked about him a little bit before the show, and he's actually producing a show on an outdoor network. What's he doing?
Yeah.
Where's he going?
He's going around, domestically and internationally, and he's a digital narrative specialist. He's a storyteller with a camera.
I have no doubt that he's great at it now, but when you first got him, obviously you saw potential in him, I'm sure. But was he nervous and giddy and not really, was he unsure? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it sounds very, very familiar. And he and I are still great, dear friends. And we talk about this a lot, how it was a seminal moment for him where he proved to himself the kind of gifts that he had. I'm only good at a couple of things, and one of the things that I'm very lucky to have been endowed with is like vision, where I can see what young people like you are good at, and then I try really, really hard to make sure you know that as well. And then you go about the work of helping you realize that potential and holding you to the potential that you have.
So this was kind of a social justice class for your class as well, right? Helping them bring up and understand the culture of Istanbul and Turkey.
Sure.
As well as, did you do any work with locals or anything like that?
No. There have been other trips where I went to Turkey where we did work with local people, not that one in particular. And, thank God for Gonzaga University sending me all over the globe, but they sent me to Africa and Slovenia. When I would go to those places, we would hold seminars for local people there and help them learn this quick turn, short form digital narrative construction process that I have, that is still evolving to this very day, by the way.
Yeah, that's awesome, because coming in here, I was blown away by the studio. I don't think I've ever really been in a studio before, and I'm on my phone every day, I watch TV every day, so I imagine quick form media to them is an absolute foreign language, and it would be so hard to understand. And being from one of those nations, what are some of the countries that you went to?
We went to Slovenia. And I would take a group of Slovenian students to Turkey, where we would, engage in a, 2 or 3 day storytelling, raw information gathering trip. Then we would go back to Ljubljana, and I'd have other seminars where other locals would come in and learn basic videography and nonlinear editing techniques. But the whole point was not so that they become a storyteller in my mold, but so that they were able to learn a new language through which to tell their own stories. When you can take this gift, this fluency in a new language to an underserved population, then they don't have to worry about having stories told about them. The real gift that we tried to give was to allow them to be the authors of their own narrative.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I hope that one day that you're able to do this with many other people in many other countries. Is that something that you would consider about doing here in Boise?
Funny you should mention that. I'm actually in conversations with somebody here right now to do something like that. And I promise you, as soon as we have something concrete, you get to be the one to announce it.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you. And when we come up next, we're going to talk more with Professor Dan Garrity about his teaching philosophy and why he holds it so dear. You've been watching Boise State in the Community on BTV. Don't go anywhere.
Finding a career after graduation can be a difficult period for many students. Luckily, Boise State is a place to make the transition out of college life a little less intimidating. I'm Joe Dyer with What to Know about the Career Center at Boise State. Whether you're a new student having trouble deciding on a major or a senior looking for an internship, the Career Center has resources for you. In addition to hosting job fairs on campus, the Career Center oversees a variety of programs to help you gain job experience before graduation. These programs, internships, Work U, and on-campus student employment can help you gain valuable experience and connect with potential employers. If these don't sound like a good fit, no problem. The Career Center will keep you updated on outside opportunities through Handshake, yet another resource designed to connect you with employers. And if you're still lost, the Career Center has you covered. Their website offers career assessments, resume building tips, and even tips on personal branding and networking. To make an appointment at the Career Center or to access their online resources, go to boisestate.edu/career. I'm Joe Dyer with What to Know at Boise State.
Okay, and stand by to roll the show, and roll it. Good job!
Whoa.
Okay.
The video you just watched was of Professor Dan Garrity with his granddaughters teaching them how to be future producers. So teaching is something that you obviously care about and you love doing. I can just tell. It radiates off you, and doing it with your granddaughters, that has to be special to you.
Oh, well, that's why we came to Boise, to be with those characters right there. Yeah.
So you were a professor at Gonzaga before you came here, and now you're teaching here at Boise State and CWI.
And CWI, College of Western Idaho.
How many years did you teach at Gonzaga?
16.
16. And during that time, I understand that they won 0 national championships.
Ouch. Ouch. Yeah, we were in the championship game. Phoenix, Arizona, first Final Four ever. I'm very, very proud of the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait for the March Madness to come here to Boise.
Me too.
Even if we're not in it, it has to be a great atmosphere.
Yeah. So well, you have our old coach. Leon Rice is from Gonzaga, absolutely.
That's awesome. So going back into teaching, you have taught for 16 years at Gonzaga and then 1 or 2 years at CWI.
Well, I've been here now in Boise for a little over a year.
Little over a year. And you're teaching media classes both here and there, so you flip-flop back and forth. So you're all over the place. You put your hands everywhere you can. And so what is it about teaching and giving back that you think is just so special?
I mean, if I was smarter and perhaps I could, build houses, that's what I would be doing. If I was, gifted in the healthcare, I would do what my wife does. She's a nurse. But this is what I do. And I'm glad that you can tell that I enjoy it. And I'm glad that, the students can tell that I really, really do care about them. I do. I'm lucky that the universe has given me that desire, and these. I don't like that saying. Well, if you can, those who can't do teach. Teaching's hard, and I enjoy expending the effort it takes to teach. But it does take effort.
Yeah, yeah. And so you're a teacher, and you love it. You love teaching, and I'm a student. I don't always love being a student, but I am a learner, and I do love learning, and I've loved learning this class. But you emphasize a special type of learning, service learning. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it kind of gets back to the devotion to achieve social justice through whatever you're good at. And what I hope to instill in all of the students who I'm lucky enough to have in my classes is that you've got a responsibility. You've got gifts, but those gifts come with responsibility to do something wonderful that changes the world. And I joke around, like, in television, your job isn't to come up with another, idiotic show that celebrates the basest instincts of humans. Your job is to do something wonderful and creative that creates messages that bring people closer together and helps them understand things that before were perhaps a little bit scary or hard to talk about. And through the things that you're learning how to do, you have a tremendous opportunity to change. So that's what service learning is all about, like learning how to use your academic pursuits to change the world in a positive way.
Amazing. And so you talked about it a little bit earlier with Andrew. So what's it like seeing your former students manifest and succeed and thrive in the media industry?
It is the best.
What thrill does that give you?
I'm telling you, I had many students in the Spokane market working for local affiliates, and I'm not their dad. They have wonderful parents, but it was on that trajectory, that kind of feeling where, the first time you went into double digits, I bet your dad was in the stands going crazy. It was kind of that feeling that, wow, look at what they're doing with the gifts they've been given. It's amazing feeling.
And do you keep in touch with any of these students?
A lot, I really do. I started teaching in 2001, and students going all the way back to 2001 are still dear friends of mine, not only socially, but also professionally. Anybody that is doing wonderful things in their industry is very generous, and they give back. So I have my alumni do guest lectures all the time, and I call them up sometimes and talk about their specific genres. I have people in Hollywood who are making money off of YouTube and social media, which was brand new, and they help educate me so that I can then share that information with you.
And that's another form of social justice in the term of service learning.
Right.
And I think service learning is great. This is the first service learning class that I've been able to take. Just today, I was in a biology lecture for an hour. It was boring. I had no interest in it. Hopefully,
your biology teacher could be watching.
Yeah, I hope not. But it's so repetitive, and I'm not even a biology major, so you kind of lull in and out. But here, I'm on the set. People are doing stuff. We're learning. We are learning on the job, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't really get when they go to college or they sit in lectures, and maybe they do, but I've never experienced that personally. So what is it about service learning that you feel makes us more ready for the workforce?
I'm not sure it's me. I'm sure it's not me saying this is what you should be doing. I think it's the other way around, where sometimes the fish swims upstream and that takes way too much energy. Going to college, this liberal arts education that you've begun, is helping you find the stream where you're going with the current. And there are many people in biology, probably sitting next to you in that biology class, who are they say, oh my God, this is it. This is where I can make a difference. Yeah. Luckily, you found it here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're running out of time. But before we always break class, you always leave us with a quote that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's facing your fear. Yeah, I slaughtered that quote. I'm sorry, but please explain.
It's not me. It's Aristotle. And courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in the face of fear.
Yeah, and why is that so important to you? Why is that important for us as media majors or people in general?
Because life is hard and stressful and scary. And I want you, with your heart beating like mad and with crazy things going on in the studio, I want you to be able to perform at your peak, to reach your potential, no matter how stressful the situation is.
Absolutely, and I felt that I did my best here today.
I think so too.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
That's unfortunately all the time we have for today. A special thank you to my director, Syra Chelovich, my producer, Ryan Uria, and my technical director, Ray Mullins, and a special thank you for watching. Good night.